Hello, people of YouTube. My name is Steve Gray. Thank you for watching. Today we are talking about Rick and Morty, Season 7, Episode 3. And I like this one. I like this one a lot better than last week's episodes. Voices are still a little off. Still think Justin Roiland should be back in his role, being that he was found innocent. But I'm not going to rant about that again. We ranted about that on the first episode, so let's just get into the review. Starting off in Dr. Wong's office, Rick creates a hologram, and then he actually does show up. Rick has been actually showing up to therapy. Actually doing something healthy with your mental illness, going to therapy. And he was like, oh, sorry, I just turned on the hologram because there was Funyuns behind the couch. I think they're Funyuns. Some sort of chip, and he goes and gets them. President calls him. He doesn't pick up. President shows up. Andre Curtis. Him and the shrink, Dr. Wong there, the therapist, kind of hit it off. And Rick is like, yeah, do not date you cannot date my shrink. He starts talking about Scientology. And then he says, I'm sorry for disrespecting your religion. And then the president's like, oh, well, I guess it worked. And he had to go kill the Loch Ness Monster, to make a long story short. Nessie somehow ended up in Lake Erie. It was like this kind of giant spew of conspiracy theories. It was kind of funny because it was like, oh, it turned the bones into titanium, then it turned the bones into sulfur. And trying to keep up with it was like, what is going on? It was kind of funny because they were just throwing every conspiracy theory at the book. Morty, not in this episode a lot, not really. But it's basically a Rick and President episode. And actually, Dr. Wong's in it quite a bit too. So Rick, President, Wong, all three of them are in there. Virginia, the entire state of Virginia is now for love. Like, they're just like, everybody's making out. You know, the governor has a 100% approval rating, which is impossible. This is kind of where we saw the preview, where they have the crack team, someone that can possibly see the future, and before Rick leaves, he's like, warning, danger, like, don't do that. He doesn't talk, all that great, but he's an alien, so who knows. And it looks like Rick is getting attacked by a Sasquatch, which is really interesting. And we have a robot here as well, and then a rock dude, which I don't remember. They are very minor characters in the entire thing. And that's pretty much all she wrote there. So yeah, they're having a good time, trying to figure out what's going on. They're like, I'm the president, we have nukes, and then vomit. Yellow vomit this time, which is interesting, because we're running into an old character. And do you know who that old character is? Yeah, I think you do. It's Unity, which is interesting because I think they changed the color of vomit. I want to say it was originally blue. I know it's just a subtle thing. Maybe there's like different levels, or maybe they just forgot what color it was originally, or maybe it's because we're on a different planet with a different species. We've seen that other species get taken over. Maybe that's a little different, which is why the color's different. Small detail. Maybe it's because the portal fluid got changed to yellow, so they made this yellow too. Maybe evil Morty is conspiring with Unity. Who the heck knows? It could be any number of things, but I'm pretty confident the original color was not that. Rick actually figured this out. He has a way to shoot a fog that makes the people throw up Unity, essentially, and go back to their normal minds. Wong is kind of like, what's the relationship here? He gets the president out. Wong gets out, and then we find out that Unity is actually just being a nice person because, she found out, or they found out, I should say, because hive mind, that Rick was going after Rick Prime again. They were worried about him, and they just wanted to talk and make sure he was all right. So he threatens to kill himself at one point. Unity could very easily take over the entire planet if they wanted to. And essentially what happens is the president puts them in a dome, the size of the entire state. Unity can't get a good connection to them, so it's kind of like a bunch of husks, is the best way I can describe this here. Really digging the animation, too, in this episode. Everything is just looking good. President is getting annoyed about his bad approval ratings. He's trying to, take his boundaries a little bit too far with Dr. Wong. Dr. Wong pushes him back. Rick finally agrees to talk to Unity, and she's like, you cut 8 million pieces of me. It kind of hurt. He was like, oh, don't worry about it. It's just like a finger to you, because Unity obviously, the relationship was you leave all of Rick's stuff alone. If Rick has an association with it, Unity will not take it over, which is why he doesn't trust her at the moment, and he is generally mad at her. Not happening. And Unity seems like she's trying to go back into the relationship. It's kind of like it is a toxic relationship, I would say, because they bring out the worst in each other. If you go back and rewatch that original episode. But I think, Unity still kind of has a thing for Rick, and I think Rick a little bit at the end of the episode. Rick then blows up at Summer's face, but he's getting better. He says sorry. He doesn't under his breath. He doesn't say it to her directly. But he's getting a little better. So the president is like, oh God, I'm not going to get reelected, even though it's been like 20 years, because this is Rick and Morty. Not really, because everybody's still the same age. But the president decides he wants some of that hive mind. He wants to be able to be his own hive mind. The puke is then more puke colored in this case. He ends up getting his own control. So I guess this is kind of how a hive mind gets created. Is essentially part of the hive gets broken off from it. Can't get control of it. So then they are all husks, and essentially anybody can take over all of them. And that is exactly what the president does. He ends up taking over everybody. Rick just says, lock the doors. Everybody's like, oh my God, the president is the best. And then Rick's like, all right, I got to go deal with this. So he goes with Wong and, talking about boundaries and everything. And she was like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize, this was going to affect our relationship. But, it does. It does. He's definitely mad at Dr. Wong. Apparently, then we have Dr. Wong meeting with Unity and agreeing with Unity. Basically saying, you show up unannounced, do this, Rick's true. You had an outer space lady who was worried about your life. Now you're asking her to both forgive you and solve it. So basically he's saying, he messed up in this situation by not contacting her. He wanted nothing to do with her initially, but in reality, when someone calls you like 5+ times, you either gotta tell them to cut it out because you're no longer interested in them, or maybe they actually are concerned for you and just want to talk to you for a brief amount of time. It's a little bit of a double-edged sword. So I kind of agree with Wong here, kind of don't, because if it's a toxic ex, which I don't think Unity's toxic. Rick is definitely more toxic than Unity, but at the same time, Unity takes over planets, and it doesn't really get any more toxic than that. So interesting scenario. But Wong ends up agreeing with Unity and is like, yeah, basically, you're asking her to do everything and you're doing nothing. So he says he's sorry. Unity ends up taking over the entire planet, like really easily, like not even hard. And then she's like, I've never released millions of people before, but she does. She's a little injured, but she's no worse for wear, or they, whatever Unity is. I guess we're going with they, because it's not technically a dude or a girl. Rick's like, thank you, fair enough. He's like, hey, you want to go hang out with my grandkids for a little bit, see them. And then Unity, I'll just play this here. He's like, I trust you now. And then Unity's like, yeah, but, you may trust me now, but I do not trust you. So it's one of these things where they can definitely bring Unity back, but 50-50 if they do. They can. Everybody likes the Unity character. Everybody is like, oh my God, that one alien girl's so hot. But who knows? So Rick grabs some beer, goes talks to the president, and they're like, yep, we're both pieces of shit. Rick's just like F them, basically F the entire country. The people that don't like you, and F the people that are hating on you. So here we have like an alien version of, I think it's Larry King, and I'm not sure who this knife dude is supposed to be, but there was in the preview, I think it was in the preview and part of the episode too, they were watching like a little bit of interdimensional cable, and essentially this guy shows, he goes and asks people questions, but he has razor sharp blades for a nose and hands and feet, and he's like, yeah, he's like, what do you say to people that don't want to get stabbed? They're like, well, why are you coming to my show? He's like, I don't think I should be boxed out of an industry. And then it's like, well, your show has resulted in 58,000 deaths. And then what does he say at the end here? It was something funny. Let's find what it actually shows here. Well, you're talking about it, yeah. So basically, it's people are in this reality. People are very taken away by fame, and they want to get their 2 seconds, so that they'll go to a free showing to see their face on the show for 2 seconds, and then end up dying because they get stabbed to death. It's really, really weird. Really, really, really weird, but just a fun little interdimensional cable thing in there as well. But yeah, cool to see Unity back. Good episode overall. Good to see Rick is actually growing. He got some decent character development in this episode. Saying like sorry, even if it is just a little bit, but he is changing very, very slowly. He's getting there. Rating out of 10. Let's give this one a solid 8. I would say. Not the best episode, not the worst. We still got 7 episodes left in the season, so we'll definitely see what happens. But significantly better than last episode. I did not like the last episode at all. So for everybody saying, oh, you just hate the new voice actors, blah, blah, blah. No, I do not hate the new voice actors. I am being optimistic, giving them a chance, trying to have an open mind. And I think in the first episode, they were pretty decent. And then in this episode, they were pretty decent too. I just didn't generally like the storyline. It had absolutely nothing to do with the voice actors last episode. Other than that, thank you for watching. Hit that subscribe button, like, share, comment what you want to see for future cartoon and anime-related content. Stay tuned for Dr. Stone. Stay tuned for Jujutsu Kaisen. Stay tuned for Spy Family, because we are still doing all of those. And Rick and Morty, of course, too. Thank you for watching it again, and as always, have a good one.